This segment of DelmarvaLife is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
The use of e-cigarettes or vaping is on the rise, and so are underage users. According to the CDC, in 2014, 2.5 million middle and high school students used e-cigarettes. And while cigarette use among teens has declined in recent years, from nearly 16% to just over 9%, the use of e-cigarettes has gone from 1.5% to more than 13%.
So what exactly does an e-cigarette do? Well, the electronic device uses a battery to convert liquid nicotine flavoring and other chemicals into an inhalable vapor. There is no smoke or tar, but there is addictive nicotine. The CDC says that nicotine can affect developing children, and they aren't the only ones concerned. The FDA wants to know what else is in the vapor of these currently unregulated devices.
And like some teenagers do, they try to push things to the next level, like mixing liquid nicotine and soda and juice, all in an attempt to get high.
We usually check it like at least once a month.
This dad doesn't want to show his face on camera, but like many parents, he regularly checks his daughter's phone and reads her text messages to make sure he knows what she's up to.
She was texting on her phone at the dinner table, and I took her phone.
And what he found, he didn't even recognize.
And we were wondering what the heck Penguin was.
After some serious questioning, his daughter confessed she and her friends were talking about liquid nicotine. It's the solution designed for vaping and e-cigarettes. She told him kids at school like to mix it with something like soda or juice and drink it to get high. The local health district says liquid nicotine abuse is on the rise and it can be deadly. It releases a dopamine high just like cocaine or heroin, and it comes with the same risks.
Starting down this road of playing with nicotine is really opening the door to all kinds of things. It immediately chains you to that nicotine. It's not something that you're having control over. Nicotine will quickly have control over you.
My daughter is like, it's bigger than marijuana in my school. It's profitable.
That's right. She said kids aren't just taking it, they're dealing it. Here's a price list that shows kids start out paying $5 for 5 drops, all the way up to $40 for an entire 18-milligram bottle. This dad admits he was floored.
I was irate, really.
But then he found something even more disturbing. A text message dated almost 2 weeks before. His daughter's friend said a teacher, whose name we're not showing, found out what Penguin was.
She knows about everyone who used the code word Penguin in front of her. And she goes, so does she know about me too? She goes, yeah, she's not on a tail though.
Dad says he contacted the school first thing on Monday, wanting to know why he and other parents hadn't been immediately notified. He says he was put in touch with the school resource officer, but never heard from the principal or anyone else. Superintendent Dr. Deb Clemens wouldn't talk on camera, but said the teacher reported the incident to the assistant high school principal. She was asked if she knew about it when the text was sent and why it took so long to report. She said the district doesn't believe there was an unreasonable delay. The superintendent says the investigation isn't complete, but she believes everyone acted appropriately. But this dad couldn't even hold his emotions when he said more should have been done and every parent should have been told.
By not contacting a student, who knows, a kid could have overdosed that same day. I don't want any kids dying from that stuff, and it worries me, man.
He just hopes now parents and the district will start to pay attention. The superintendent also said at least one student has been suspended. More may also be suspended as this investigation continues. Another problem that the liquid nicotine is causing is poisoning in children.
Here to tell us just how big a problem it is and what it can do is Dr. Michael Murphy, an emergency medicine physician with Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Okay, is this something that you've seen in the emergency department?
Yeah, we've seen this. I've seen a couple of cases in the last year.
Really?
So if a child ingests liquid nicotine, what can it do?
Well, it can range from anything from minor symptoms to nausea or vomiting. You might see a child who looks dizzy or off balance, like they're having trouble walking. Yeah. But it can get very serious. It can cause seizures. It can cause cardiovascular collapse. It can cause them to stop breathing, lapse into coma, and even die.
Now, children have died, like you said, in this country from ingesting the liquid nicotine. Several have been hospitalized. What do you think is the allure of it?
Well, one of the things about these liquids is that they're flavored. And they're flavored with fruit flavors, chocolate flavors, dessert flavors. It's one of the allures for smokers because it tastes good, but children also find the flavor to be tasty as well.
Something they like.
Yeah.
So when it comes to adults need to be careful handling this liquid too.
It's absorbable through the skin. And if you spill it and touch it to your skin, adults can get nicotine poisoning as well.
Really? Okay, let's go back to the children though. What are some signs that there might be some nicotine poisoning going on?
Well, like we talked about, the first thing is going to be nausea or vomiting, which is kind of nonspecific. But if you see that in conjunction with the child who's acting oddly, seems to be having trouble speaking, they can even have a seizure.
Okay, so let's say that you've got a nicotine poisoning case with a child here. Do we induce vomiting? Do we get charcoal in them? What do we do?
Well, we don't use charcoal because it's a liquid, so charcoal is usually only going to be effective for pill overdoses.
Okay.
I don't think we would induce vomiting either. We'd probably send that child to the ER for evaluation and to see what kind of care they need.
Okay, we just heard about a disturbing trend where I guess teenagers are mixing it with other liquids, such as alcohol. What do you think of that?
Well, that can be dangerous as well. You have a stimulant there, and then alcohol is a depressant, and that can cause significant problems because you don't really know when you're taking those kind of mixtures what the outcome's going to be.
Right.
And you can have just a small amount of nicotine. These liquids can be so concentrated with nicotine that even a small amount, as much as 1 milliliter, can be toxic, depending on a person's size.
Well, this father was just talking about finding out his daughter and kids are mixing it with soda and juice. Is that any better, worse, different?
I think, again, you're going back to it. You really don't know what you're getting with some of these. They're not regulated by the FDA. Some of the liquid nicotines have ethylene glycol in it, which is from an ingredient from antifreeze.
Right.
They have oil of wintergreen, which is like an aspirin type of product, so you can overdose on that as well. Oof. So they can be very concentrated, and even a small amount. 1 teaspoon of the liquid nicotine can be deadly for a grown adult.
So what message would you like to give to parents in regards to this liquid nicotine?
Well, it needs to be something that's monitored very closely. They shouldn't leave it laying around the house. You've heard me say it before, if you're smoking, quit smoking. The best thing would be to not have it in the home. But if you're going to have it in the home, keep a very close watch on it. Make sure children can't get into it, and have a really high index of suspicion. If you think your child's acting strangely, think about the nicotine.
Dr. Murphy, thank you so much. Important information we need to know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And for more information on liquid nicotine and its dangers, or on Peninsula Regional Medical Center, go to our website, WPOC.com, and click on our picture at the top of the page.
Now, you just heard Dr. Murphy say that he'd like everyone to quit smoking. Still, there are currently 42 million cigarette smokers. 480,000 people die from it every year.
And if that's not enough to get you to think about quitting, now a new study shows there are another 5 diseases being attributed to cigarette smoking. Many Americans are already living with chronic smoking-induced illnesses such as heart disease, stroke, diabetes, chronic lung disease, and 12 kinds of cancer.
It's bad for you.
I quit smoking January 1.
Didn't want to be a slave anymore. I used to be a smoker.
I started early in my life, and it's just hard to stop.
Now, the New England Journal of Medicine has added kidney failure, intestinal blood vessel blockage, hypertensive heart disease, infections, respiratory diseases, breast cancer, and prostate cancer to the list of diseases caused by smoking. This will account for 60,000 more deaths a year, which is more than car accidents, influenza, and murder. The study followed 1 million men and women from 2000 to 2011. To curb cigarette smoking, experts are prompting doctors to be more aggressive with addressing smoking with their patients and suggest increased taxes on cigarettes. They're hoping to stop death by tobacco. Lead author of the study, Brian D. Carter, public health specialist with the American Cancer Society, says smoking should be treated as a form of drug addiction, just like alcohol or heroin.
Addiction can happen just like that.
It can.
Addiction of any kind is unhealthy, but here's an interesting tidbit. Experts are now calling another one of our bad habits the new smoking. Sitting. Coming up, we're going to hear more about the new trends of standing, how it's even happening in our schools. We're going to find out where teachers, students, and parents stand on that.
Plus, many 9-to-5 office jobs require a lot of work, but they also require a lot of sitting. We find out just how all of that sitting is impacting your health.
And here's one guy who never sits for too long, our own Sean Stryker on the go again. But do you know where he is? Sean, we need our first clue in today's Search for Stryker.
Jimmy and Lisa, I'm gonna be frank. Today is gonna be hard. Here's your first clue. This town was founded in 1808 around a country store called Long's Store on Vine Branch. If you don't know, that's all right. That was only your first clue. We got 2 more coming up. DelmarvaLife, we'll be right back.